When I was praying this morning about coming here, not really sure what to say, I had an image of, those mosaics in which every single little piece of the mosaic is a picture of a person. And then, so you see this very unique image, but when you look closely, you see all these people. And I really felt like that's the story of my life, in which I just see this mosaic of, today it's like the Holy Family, this beautiful image of the Holy Family. And when I look closely in, I see all these people. And each person has a significant role in the making up of this beautiful family that I've been invited to. So many people that are watching here, as well as the people here, you've all been an important part of the mosaic of just this tapestry of God's love and goodness for me. And so I thank you for the role that you've played and that you'll continue to play for the rest of my life. And as I zoomed into this mosaic, I thought, there's so many people I could talk about. And then I'm like, even coming to this gospel, I wasn't sure which one I wanted to choose, which one I wanted to zoom in on. And then I heard that there's some bets being made about who's going to cry first, myself or Monsignor Greg. So I thought, okay, maybe for the people that are betting Monsignor Greg, I'll help you out and I'll share something about him. In my ordination card, it's the image of the prodigal son. And if you turn around the ordination card on the top, there's a quote that I would make a bet no one has ever put this quote in for an ordination card. I'd put a good bet. It says, it's from the story of the prodigal son, and says, "Then the father said to his servants, 'Quickly bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him.'" I chose this as the quote for my ordination to the priesthood. And out of my ordination to the priesthood, there were so many significant moments of that rite, and it was a great gift for many people to be able to watch it and to be able to zoom in on so many beautiful parts of the ordination liturgy. But there was one moment for myself on a personal level that stood above the rest, which was when Monsignor Greg vested me in the chasuble. That was the most significant moment of the ordination rite for myself. See, because I put that image of the prodigal son as the story of my life. And when I went on my retreat before being ordained a deacon, I went to this priest in Omaha, Father James Rafferty, and he said, "Tell me about the story of your life." And I said, I am the prodigal son. I even have an older brother who, and I'm this younger brother, and I went off to the far distant country of California, and I just wasted so much that I'd been given in a life of debauchery, whatever, fill in the blank. And one day, I wanted to come home. And as many of you know, just the experience of, through the intercession of my mother in particular, the Father welcoming me home and just experiencing such an abundance of God's love and goodness. And as I told Father Rafferty the story of my life, I'm like, I still feel like the prodigal son. Here I am at the seminary, and I just have such this high standard for myself, and I can never live up to it. It's I feel like every day I have this experience of being like the prodigal son, where I just kind of somehow mess up, and then I come back home at the end of the day before I fall asleep, and I'm like, "Okay, God, I messed up again, and please forgive me," and then I fall asleep. And I'm telling him, I still am the prodigal son, even at seminary. And Father Rafferty, he said, "Okay, I need you to pray about a passage, Baruch, chapter 5, verse 1. It's okay, I don't even know if I've ever read the book of Baruch in the Old Testament. Okay, go spend the next hour reading Baruch chapter 5, verse 1. So I open up my Bible, try to find this book. Chapter Baruch, it says, "Take off the garments of sorrow and put on forever the beauty of the glory from God. Take off the garments of sorrow and put on forever the beauty of the glory of God. And I realized, if you look at the image of the prodigal son's wearing these really shabby clothes. He's wearing these ragged clothes. They probably smell like the pig farm he was working on. And that was like this garment of sorrow that I identified myself with. Like, I was the prodigal son. And even in seminary, you know how you hear people wearing like hair shirts, like underneath whatever they're wearing? It was like I had this garment of sorrow that I was wearing my entire life. It's like, I'm the prodigal son. I just constantly mess up in my life. And regardless of what good I could do or people think that I'm doing really well, I just feel like I'm always a mess up inside. I'm just always the prodigal son. There's always something wrong with me. So Father Rafferty said, yeah, that garment of sorrow, those prodigal son's clothes, they don't belong in the Father's house. They don't belong in the Father's house. And that was like what I identified with. I was so comfortable wearing these garments of sorrow that I was just always a mess up inside. He said, no, those don't belong in the Father's house. You need to put on the glory of the beauty from God. You need to put on the vestments, the clothes that God has for you, that God has set aside for you. And as I was praying with this passage, I pictured myself in this room, just this majestic, beautiful room, like full of oak, and sitting across this great table was God the Father on just this huge throne. And he's just looking at me, and he's just got this like huge smile. And I enter in, like I've come in as the prodigal son. I'm wearing just these ragged clothes, and I sit down across the Father, and he's just looking upon me, and he's like, take off the garments of your sorrow. And I just picture myself just like taking them off, and I'm just looking at him, and he's like, look down. Look down. And I look down, and I see my ordination vestments. I see these vestments that the Father has laid out for me. He's like, yeah, these are for you. These are the vestments I have for you. I don't want you to wear the garments of sorrow. Those don't belong on you. This is not from my house. Those are things from the far distant country. Put on the vestments I have for you. And so when you hear the story of the prodigal son, and you hear the Father say, quickly, bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. All of a sudden, it's like, this is going to be fulfilled in my life. And so when I sent out an invitation, one of the 10 invitation cards to the ordination, I sent Monsignor Greg the image of the prodigal son, and I said, read the back, that quote. And I said, Monsignor Greg, you're going to fulfill this in my life. You're going to fulfill this in my life. Like, you get to be the Father for me and put on the beauty of the glory of God. You get to put on the Father's vestments that he's chosen for me. And so when I was in that ordination and Monsignor Greg got to come and put on the chasuble, like, it might have looked like there weren't very many people, but I just saw like God the Father, Mary, Jesus, just with these huge smiles, like, yes, like this is what we've reserved for you. This is what you should wear. You know, and Monsignor Greg got to fulfill that in my life, putting on the best robe. You know, and so often in our lives, like, we identify with these garments of sorrow, these ragged clothes. Like, we're so used to identifying ourselves with our brokenness, our shame, our past. And this year of COVID, many people are, you identify yourself with maybe health challenges or family brokenness, and you hear about the Feast of the Holy Family, you think like this has no connection to my life, like my family's a mess. Whatever it might be, like the Father does not want you to identify with that in your life. He wants you to put on the beauty of the glory from God. Like he wants you to identify with the best vestment. Like for me, I got to experience that. Monsignor Greg got to vest me in that. Like that is a continual sign of the Father's goodness and love. We need to constantly be aware of these signs. What is it for you? Like what is that garment of sorrow that you identify yourself with? That does not belong in the Father's house. On this Feast of the Holy Family, like, you actually belong to the Holy Family. You actually belong to the Holy Family. And when you enter into that family home, like, you get to put aside all of the garments of sorrow, all of those things that you identify with that are not from God. You get, like, Mary's weaving something for you, a special dress, a special garment. She wants to put that on you. Just the simple fact that she can look at you and say, I just love you. Like, this is who you are. Not from anything you can do. You can't earn it. They've just invited you into their home. And they want to clothe you with a new dignity, a new love. And some of us just get the amazing privilege of doing that for others. You know, Monsignor Greg, he got to do it for me. And it's just so, God's goodness is just like, sometimes I'm just blown away at how good he is. Like, Monsignor Greg would be the first to admit, like, he doesn't deserve it in any way. But that's just how good God is. Like, he just bestows his goodness lavishly. You know, it's ultimately the story of the prodigal father, who's just like, he just gives everything, just holds nothing back in his goodness. And so for us, we get just to choose today to enter into the Holy Family's home. You know, and you might, if there's anything that you're aware of in your heart that you feel like, I'm not worthy, like that's that garment of sorrow. That's the ragged clothes that don't belong. You get to set them aside today. Set aside your whole past and just choose to be a part of the Holy Family's home. You know, I want to put on that vestment on you, the clothes of dignity, that God just delights and loves you for who you are, not for what you can do. You know, so when I get to wear, like when I put on this chasuble today, it's just another sign of the goodness of God. And I hope this can be a reminder for you as well. Enter into this time of prayer, put aside all the garments of sorrow, all the things that are not from God's home. Enter into the Holy Family. Allow Mary to be your mother, Joseph to be your father, Jesus to be your brother. Allow them to clothe you with a new dignity today. And hopefully this will be an invitation for a new life for all of us. I felt like I have a whole new life. Like, seriously, when I was ordained a priest, this is like the beginning of my life. And I just get to share in this awesome gift that Monsignor Greg and Father Jeff have been partaking in. Just the prodigal father, just bestowing abundant goodness upon everyone. And so I look forward to seeing all of you someday when we can fill up this church once again and just share in the goodness of God. Until then, accept this invitation from the Holy Family. Put aside all the things in your life that are not from God. Allow him to clothe you with a new dignity and love, and you'll get to experience just the pure joy of what God has in store for you.